Hello guys, it's Sakuems. Welcome back to my channel. So if you're new here, hello, my name is Emily. I'm a French artist and YouTuber. In this week's video, I have decided to do a sketching session. I feel like as artists, we are kind of always in the making of stuff. We have, if you are an artist, but it's also your job, you will probably know that it's pretty hard sometimes to just find the time to create more. And I find myself surrounded by making videos. I'm surrounded by taking care of my orders on my Etsy store. I have just everything takes so much time that sometimes I feel like, hey, I actually didn't sketch in a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, sometimes even longer than that. And whenever I want to create a new artwork, I always have to dig back and go back to my very old sketches because I have no new sketches. So I have decided for this week's video to do an intense sketching session. I have basically sketched and tried to spread my knowledge and study a little bit of my references and everything for about 3 hours, and I have decided to do it in 3 different settings, I suppose. So originally I had planned to do also a nature flower studies, but I didn't have the time to do that as well. But I still managed to do 3 things. So in the beginning of the video, you have pretty much my references. I have a lot of references, whereas like from anatomy or artworks that I like, or actual pictures and photos of people, mostly female and mostly very meditative and very zen and like fashion like that. But I also try my best to have different expressions and different poses and everything, but it's still kind of hard sometimes to, you know, mix and match. However, I have basically picked a few things from my references binder, and I've selected the few things that you have seen in the beginning of the video because I wanted to practice expressions, because I feel like my characters always have the same expression and the same face, so I wanted to try that. I also wanted to practice hands because I usually hide them behind the head or behind the shoulder, or not the shoulders, but yeah, I'm trying my best sometimes just to I feel like I have this lazy thing that artists sometimes have, is like if you don't know how to draw something, then you just hide it. And I want to like branch out from doing portraits and always the front view and always the same kind of face and always the same expression. So I feel like this was one of those times where I have to push myself, and if it looks bad, it looks bad. This is the entire purpose, I think, for a sketching session, is that you probably, maybe if you're lucky, you're going to have 1 or 2 things that you can use in a different artwork, in like an actual finished piece, but the rest of it is just purely practice. And this is like one of the biggest tip for any artist out there. It's just you have to decide to put the time and effort to try to practice. You have to decide to make kind of crappy art and just warm up and try again and try again. And after like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, trying to work with that, whether it's flowers or objects or from still life, whether like no matter the topic really, just try to allow yourself 1 or 2 hours where you can practice and do loose sketch, or try to get into the swing of things and have a bit more flow to your lines, because when you do that, if you are creating a concept afterwards, you will just be, yeah, it's like a warm-up. It's like you can't go for a hike if you don't know how to walk. You can't sing properly if you don't warm up your voice. This is exactly the same with drawings. So I figured that would be an interesting thing for me to try out, because I want to know really with that setting and practicing and warming up, if I was able to create a new concept art that was a little bit more defined and interesting, I suppose. And so what I did is I first I first worked with hands, because I'm really bad at drawing hands, and it's pretty hard also to simplify them, but I think I mean, I don't know how I feel about my actual attempt. I feel like I am somehow getting better at drawing hands, but I still feel like I have to practice a lot more different shapes, and also not as realistic, I suppose. It's still kind of hard to define how to draw them. Very illustrative. I usually either it's just too realistic, or it's just weird and like potato hands. I don't know. So what I did for the first two hands that I have drawn, I've used my own hand. My left hand has references. So what I did is I just look at it and then I drew, and then I tried to like put them in a pose. I put my hand in a pose and just memorize it and then draw it from memory. So, and I also tried to basically make my own afterwards, and try to create new hand poses with the actual shapes, and trying to make sure that I have the bone structure correctly. It's still not the best, but it's just a practice, and I feel like it turned out quite nice, considering that I haven't really like ever done an actual hand study. So I really like this sheet, and I'm definitely going to practice a lot more. And then the second sheet, so I wanted to do a page of expressions. So I didn't want to practice just like eye shape or just lips and everything. I wanted to combine everything and try to create different expressions, because all of the time, like I said, my character have a very still like beach, like resting beach face or something like that. And for some it actually works, but for others I feel like they just are a little bit bland, and like there's nothing really showing. And so I wanted to create a little bit more dimension to the faces and them expressing something. So I did seven, I think, if I can count. So most of those have not most of those, 3 of those have an actual reference from what I've showed in the beginning. I mainly looked at Pixar animation little what is it called, like spreadsheet. What I did is I tried to replicate the actual emotion and expression, but adapt it to my style. And so that's what I did for most of the little doodles that I did on this page. And then I also tried to use a more of a darker type of emotion, like not angry, but just a little bit more fierce, and adapt it also to my style. And I really like also the one that he's really sad and looking up. I feel like this one is quite interesting. And I had a bit of a fail with like one of the face. I'm not really just super fan of it, but it was just to practice. So I really like this page as well. And one of the face, basically the one in the corner on the left, this is the one I prefer the most. And I tried to use that as a reference for the concept art that you're going to see after in my third page, but I didn't really succeeded at doing this because the pose is quite different. But it's just a sketch, it's just a concept, so I can basically combine them both and fix that on computer to do the actual artwork afterwards. So yeah, that was my second page for the expressions. And then what I wanted to do is combine that. I've been when I worked on my concept, I already had sketched for about 2 hours, so I knew that I was warmed up, and I immediately tried to combine a few things on my references. I wanted to do a mermaid, and I wanted also to use this very dark gothic face that I had built, like that I had made in my expression page, and combined that with some flower designs. And so I looked at all my pictures and everything, and I combined a few things. I used a pose from a lowish artwork, I used some flower design from another artwork, and then I had it the sleeves. This is like my pure choice, I suppose. There was no references for that. The background also is completely my own imagination, and I wanted to do like a gothic lacy fantasy mermaid or something like that. And I've used my Colorase Prismacolor pencil, so really actually hard to erase, but it does the job. I don't really like to draw with and sketch with pencils, actual graphite pencil, because they just smudge everywhere and it's really dirty and it's just a mess. And I really like the Colorase pencil because they do like they smudge a tiny bit but not much, and they're just cleaner and I can still erase parts of it unless you really go hard on the paper. But for the majority of the time, they actually work really nicely. I've also used the red one for the shading, just to add a bit more dimension to my character. And for this concept art, so basically what you're seeing in the last part of this video, I also used a copic marker. This is BG49, just to add a bit of dimension and get a general idea of how I would shade the piece. But I didn't want to work too much on the concept art because I feel like this part is already, I mean, it's detailed enough for me to do the actual artwork. And yeah, I'm just not really a fan of the face because I didn't really capture what I wanted to capture. I want her to look a little bit more, I don't know, like the actual face from my faces like page sheet thing that I did before. So yeah, that was basically my sketching session for today. I really like the concept art that I have made in the end, and I feel like, I mean, it's not my best concept art. I have no clue with that. I have to step back from it, but it feels like it's one of the best ideas that I had, and I feel like it also just proved the point that if you sketch and you practice and you force yourself to just warm up and get into it and have a few references, it's not like I'm copying anything. It's just that I have a few things that I want to add and I mix it in my head and I put my own twist to it and I create a new concept out of it. If you feel like some artists are original, I mean, to my knowledge, I personally think that it's pretty impossible to be an original artist nowadays. It's just a copy of a copy of a copy, and you add your own personality and character to it, and you make it, it's not original, but it's still unique in a way because it's my take combining of that. If I show the same references to another artist, he or she, they will probably have similarities in the concept that will come out of those references, but it's going to be completely different because we don't have the same vision, we don't have the same style and everything. So still, I feel like it gets to the point that basically when you are into something and you are very focused and you try to push yourself to practice first and do not get discouraged, and then you create a concept art out of a little of the things that you have picked, it just usually makes a big difference. And I am really happy that I pushed myself and I tried to do this sketching session because, like I said, I haven't sketched in a very long time. I think it's been like almost a month. And so I have decided to try to implement that into my schedule more often because I think it's going to make my art just overall more, I don't know, define, and my style as well. And the more I do that, the more practice that, the more I will be able to make interesting concepts and story and tell story with my artwork, which is what I really want to do. So yeah, with that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, then don't forget to give a thumbs up and to comment in the comment section telling me how do you sketch yourself. Like, do you do warm-ups, do you practice little like anatomy, faces and things like that, or just do you go straight to finding an idea and you are like brain freeze because you don't know where to start? And if you do also those intense or sketching sessions with like 1, 2, 3 hours, because I'm really curious on how other people are working. This was very interesting to do. And of course the last artwork, like the sketching that you have just saw, I will use that in an actual complete artwork. I think I'm going to do watercolors, and I feel like also I'm going to do it a lot larger than the sketch because I want to really just have fun with the face and the details and the design, and just the background being like very watery and everything. And I feel like watercolors is going to be the best option for that character. And lastly, if you have already an idea for the name of that mermaid, I would love to know, because I usually they pop up in my head, and for now I don't have anything. So yeah, that will be it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, you guys. If you like it, then don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell icon so you don't miss any uploads I post every Saturday. Thank you. I'll see you next week. Bye bye, guys.